So there's not a road out of this short of the working class beginning to organize itself politically and ultimately to take political power.
All right, Congressman Leonard Boswell. Leonard?
Well, I do support working class, the middle class. I think the middle class is what this country is all about, and our forefathers saw that, and we got to continue to working class out, and the country will grow, and we have to think about that very strongly. The uncertainty I've heard referred to many times, well, you know, this leadership of this Congress currently is creating uncertainty, and the latest examples, as we've already talked about, the Farm Bill, the wind energy credit, that's very important to us, and it needs to be dealt with. I spent 9 years of my life outside the country, and I tell you what, it's great to be an American as far as I'm concerned. No place else I want to be. And yes, we got challenges, and we got to deal with them. We got to come together. We got to get our economy going, and it was quite a shock to us when we had to deal with the things we've had to deal with. But you know, sometimes you have to stimulate, and you've heard some comments made about stimulus. Well, you know, what would we have been if we hadn't have worked with General Motors and Chrysler? Where would we have been at that time if we'd laid off police officers, laid off school teachers, laid off people that do health care, that the communities, all sizes, depend on? We'd have been in a lot worse shape. So I feel that this particular leadership we've got now has created the most uncertainty that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and we need to stop it.
All right.
Work together, transportation works together, we need to do more of that.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much. And now we go to Scott Batcher. Scott?
Thank you again. I agree with you. Congress has and Senate have both gone downhill significantly, and a lot of it's their own doing and their positioning and their inability to work together as a collective group to be able to do what's best for the country. And when we take a look at that, it's kind of funny. We were having a conversation with some friends some night, and several years ago when Congress was really falling apart, and somebody mentioned, yeah, they're just acting like children. And I said, hey, don't insult children. Because guess what? These congressmen are doing things that I can't even put a word to. And in order to get that back, because I'm running as independent, I can go out there and I will be bipartisan. As a representative, your representative in the 3rd Congress, my job is to represent you, not a political party. And that's the problem that we have, is we have too much political separation because of party and what the party is demanding of them. If they did what they were supposed to do and represent the people, I think Congress rating would go up. And that was what I would do when elected to Congress, is to work in a bipartisan fashion, to be able to coordinate like I do in business today to get results and satisfaction.
All right, thank you very much, David. We're going to continue on that theme, and this is our last question of this debate, and we're going to continue on that theme, bipartisanship, if you will. In 2 recent televised debates, 2 of you gentlemen in this room have spent a great deal of time attacking each other's commercial spots. We are not going to touch on those here tonight. Now, the question to all 4 of you gentlemen is, what needs to be done to restore compromise and bipartisanship in the federal government? In other words, as Rodney King would say, can't we all get along? David Rosenfeld, you start out for that topic.
Well, I reject the premise of the question. I don't have any interest in promoting bipartisanship, compromise, and getting along with this government. In fact, I think it's better when this government has trouble working with itself, because it's a government that represents a class that's inimical to the interests of the working class. The only reaction that they have to the economic crisis that we face is to continue to batter down the rights and the living standards of working people, and to try to desperately put off an economic collapse. Well, why would I want a government to work better at being able to do that? That's not in our interest. What we have an interest in doing is breaking from the Democrats and Republicans and beginning to organize the working class politically, to begin to fight in our own defense. And as we do that, we'll gain confidence in our capacity to do this, to fight for a different kind of society, a society that's not ruled by a tiny minority in their interest, but that's ruled in the interest of the vast majority, that can be a society that can be based upon human solidarity as opposed to exploitation racism, and war.
All right, thank you very much, David. We go to Congressman Leonard Boswell. Leonard?
Thank you, Mike. Well, the President Obama did pull a commission together called Simpson-Bowles. Simpson, a very respected Republican senator, passed. I understand he's not in good health right now, so I'm concerned about that. And Erskine Bowles, who was chief of staff for President Clinton, spent a lot of time, brought a lot of members together, worked on it, and came up with a plan to suggest that we could do efficiencies and cuts at the same time, do some revenues and so on. I think that's where we're going to have to go. We're going to have to sit down and work from that kind of a template, if you will, and see if we can't move forward. And I would like to invite, to do it very openly, and we could start discussions at the states or wherever, but, we're going to have to make some cuts. We're going to have to make some efficiencies. We're going to have to raise some revenue. When you think of the price of steel and cement and the road situation we got in the bridges and so on, we're going to have to face some realities there. And so we've got to move forward. And President Eisenhower, I'm on the group that's planning for his memorial. It's an exciting thing. And he gave us a lesson years and years and years ago. Be careful. This is soldier of the military-industrial complex. And I would guess that we can have some efficiencies there as well.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much. Let's go to Scott Batcher.
Compromise and bipartisan. It's very, very difficult. The way Congress is set up with its rules and processes does not really cater to having compromise and bipartisan. When you have one individual in the House or Senate that can control what bills get to be heard and passed, you have control and you have problems with bipartisan and compromise. Because you've given total control to one individual that shouldn't happen. The best thing that we could do is it's kind of ironic, is eliminate everyone that's in office and start with a new slate of all new congressmen. They can then start writing the rules and what is best for this country. But with the rules that Congress has in place today, you're not going to get compromise and bipartisan because there's too many inequities for each side.
All right, and we go to Congressman Tom Latham. Tom?
Well, it's a subject of great frustration, I think, to a lot of us. Compromise is supposedly a dirty word or something, and to work on a bipartisanship is not the in thing with some people. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen if we're going to, in fact, make progress for the future, because this is about our kids, about our grandchildren, about the very future of this country. I think one improvement that we've had in this Congress compared to the previous one was that when you had Congressman Boswell and Nancy Pelosi push through the stimulus package with no Republican votes. They pushed through the health care bill, the president's health care bill, with no Republican votes. They didn't try to get any Republicans. No, there was no outreach. At least today in the House of Representatives, we have bills come to the floor under what we call open rules, where people are actually offering amendments, and they're able to change bills through a normal, regular order process. And I've heard many people on the other side of the aisle within the Democrat caucus come over and say, thank goodness that has changed. That at least in the House of Representatives, I finally get to represent my district. I'm able to speak on the floor. I'm able to offer an amendment. And you may not agree on everything, but at least you give everybody an open opportunity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Congressman. And that wraps up the questioning part. We have time for 2-minute closing statements from each of our 4 candidates this evening. Congressman Latham, you get to go first.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Mike, Chuck, for putting this together, and KMA for broadcasting. It's a real pleasure, and I thank the other 3 gentlemen here for their participation this evening. I think it's been a very instructive, interesting dialogue that we've had here. Some great questions. Again, as I said in the opening, This really is about the future of this country. It's the $16 trillion of debt that we've accumulated. It's not sustainable for our kids, for our grandchildren. And, you know, with my grandson, like I mentioned, being born and being $50,000 in debt, it is simply wrong. We have got to have people representing us in Washington who listen to us here, take Iowa values, Iowa ideas, Iowa thoughts to Washington, rather than have big Washington come down with a heavy foot on us here. And that is what is stifling job creation, stifling economic growth in this country. What we need in this district is someone who's going to be active, who's going to be involved, who's going to be effective in Washington, be able to take those ideas, those thoughts from here to Washington, because they're common sense ideas that we have. And that's what we need going forward. We need people who will, in fact, put people before politics, put progress before partisanship. And that's why I'm running, and I would ask for your vote this election. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Now we go to Scott Batcher. Scott?
Thanks again, and thanks to KMA for sponsoring this. I've enjoyed myself, as I always do in these events, in talking politics and so forth. You know, I am running as an independent, and one of the things that, you know, we have to be aware of in the 3rd District is Tom Latham and Leonard Boswell have been in office for over 16 years and are responsible for the condition the country is currently in. They have been in there for over 3 presidents, and they need to take the responsibility on that. Through the years, I've heard people talk about term limits, and that we need to assign term limits to our congressmen and senators. Well, it boils down to the fact that I know in a debate that the congressman had, neither were for term limits. The ultimate term limit is left up to the voter. The voter has the choice of who they're going to elect. So if you believe in term limits, now is the time to change and vote Scott Batcher in, because change is what we need to have. We need to have new leadership in Washington, and doing the same old thing over and over again is not what we need to do. You know, little thing that we talked about before, the layman's term definition of being crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, if we keep electing the same people back to Washington, we're not going to have better results. And with me, my commitment is to work for the people of this district and do what's in the best interest, be a bipartisan, be a true independent, and being able to bring our deficit down and use my business skills and expertise to be able to bring this through and have a much better result for our country.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. Congressman Leonard Boswell, you have a closing statement. Leonard?
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate KMA doing this. I first heard KMA when I was going to elementary school, and my dad would come in to hear the reports and want to know what was going on. So I appreciate KMA very much and what you do here. And I appreciate my fellow debaters, if you will, being here tonight. Another thing my dad said, common sense, he had a term called horse sense. Just apply a little horse sense. And so I think I'm going to ask the people that are listening out there tonight to do that. If you want somebody that will continue to fight that all Americans have access and to health care, you think about me. If you want somebody that work hard on the economy and try to put people back to work, and the middle class reaching out and having opportunities to have their dream too is terribly important to us. Education, it's an investment with a known return. We have to stick with education. We can't cut there. And we have to continue to refine it and do the best we can. We've got to look after our veterans. I'm a veteran. I fought for my country. A lot of your listeners did too. I fought for my family when an intruder came into our home. And I'll fight for you now. Because I think it's so important for my children and your children, our grandchildren, to have the opportunities that we've enjoyed. I started out in a tenant farmhouse, and look what I've gotten to do because of opportunities in this great country, the United States of America. I am so proud to be an American, and I'm proud to serve you, and I will do my very best to do that I can, and I will do that. I ask for your consideration.
All right, thank you very much, Congressman. Lastly, we go to David Rosenfeld. David?
Well, we've been debating for 90 minutes, and I had not heard, and nor did I expect to, a single word from my opponents that is a plan to put millions of workers to work, millions of unemployed people to work. And so that's the heart of the question of what we need to do to organize in the interests of the working class.